We are continuing in chapter Yud Beis, chapter 12, and we have today's shir, and then tomorrow's shir we will be finished with the chapter. We are discussing the idea of how the davening impacted the Benoni, the prayers in the morning, it impacted the Benoni, and how after the prayers, however, things are starting to calm down. He doesn't have the same type of excitement. He doesn't have the same type of fiery love that he felt when he was davening. So what is he supposed to do now? Where is he holding? So we brought up in yesterday's class that at this point, he has to rely on the hidden love that is found inside of himself. What type of hidden love are we talking about? We're talking about a natural love. Just like a child has a natural love for their parent, in the same manner, we have a natural love for Hashem. But this natural love is not something that is going to cause me to become emotional to the extent that it's going to be able to vanquish the nefesh bahamis, the animal soul from inside of me. Unlike this, the love that I developed through my meditation in davening, where at that point I was on fire. And because I was on fire, all of a sudden, nothing was going to stop me from, anything that I wanted to do in a godly way. Right now, that fire is gone down. And I have left inside of me a natural love. So what am I supposed to do? So it says like this. We are on page Yud Zayin, page 33. We are about 4 lines from the bottom of the page. Ki im toicha ritzuf ava misuteres shehi ava tivis. Inside of him is flowing the hidden love that he has, which is a natural love, sheben nefesh alokis, which is in the nefesh alokis. Kamoshe kosav lekaman, like we're going to explain later on. Here he refers to, in particular, we're going to be discussing this in chapter 19. So now, all of a sudden, because this fire is no longer there, so now what do we have? We have the foolishness coming back. The fool of the nefesh bahamis, or as he's known as the old fool, right? He comes back strong. And he's coming back with all of his foolish ideas, right? At that point in time, they are now popping up into him, li'isavas taiva, to go after any type of desire or wants. L'kol inyane, next page, gashmi es ha'olam hazeh, in all the things of the physical world, thinking that that's going to make him happy, thinking that by going after this desire or that desire, that's going to, so to speak, fill that hole that's in his soul. That's what the nefesh bahamis, that's what the animal soul wants to teach us. An animal soul wants to constantly be saying, oh, if I'd only get this, then I'll be happy. If I'll only eat this, then I'll be happy. If I'll only try that, I'll be... It's constantly bombarding us with these things. Bein beheter, bein beiser, chas v'shalom. Even to the point that by the Benoni, he could even have an idea pop up into his mind that it's be'isr, that's something that's even forbidden. Ki'ilu lo ispal kalal, and it's as though he never davened at all. Right? The point is what? The point is that what happened to that fire? If you remember from a few days ago, we had the example of the burning, the burning fireplace that we talked about in Vermont, where we threw all the wood in and all the rubber boots and everything. We threw everything in. What happened? What happened to the heat that was coming from there? It's as though you have no memory of the whole thing. It's gone. So now, all of a sudden, the nefesh of bahamis, the animal soul, comes back, and he starts bombarding me with all different types of ideas, all different types of desires. I want this, I want that, I need this, I need that, in every area. The only difference is, right? The only difference is that between the things that are permissible and the things that are not permissible, with the things that are forbidden, obviously, it's not a thought that he's going to actually do it. That would never come into his mind. For example, let's say that a person is fasting on Yom Kippur, right? And all of a sudden it pops up into his mind the idea of eating some sort of French toast or pancakes or, I don't know, some sort of delicious food, some sort of ice cream. When that pops up into his mind, it's not as though all of a sudden now he's thinking, oh, I think I want to partake in this. I think I'm going to go to the kitchen and I'm going to go grab something to eat. Of course, he knows it's Yom Kippur. He's not about to do that. But the fact that the idea even pops up into his mind, right? That's because when he was davening, right? Even though he was on fire then, the davening, that energy has gone away. And what the Alter Rebbe is showing us here is that he's pointing out specifically how different the Benoni is to the tzaddik. Even the tzaddik that is not perfect, he's very different. If we would look at them from the perspective of when the Benoni was davening, so they look very similar. But at this stage, they look very different. Again, we're talking about here ideas popping up into my mind, right? Those ideas I am not in control of. So they come into my mind to do this permissible thing or even a forbidden thing. And of course, we know the Benoni, we have to know that he's in control. So he's able to push it away, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But the mere fact that it's coming up into his mind is an indication how far away he really is from the level of being a tzaddik. He's just a different type of person. He has normal desires like you and I. That's who the Benoni is. However, as he says, even though he doesn't fulfill it, the mere fact that he has these thoughts are very troubling. And in fact, he says, it brings from the Gemara in Yuma, that even the thoughts of an Aveira are terrible, and they have a very big impact on him. Now, why do we say that? Even though it's not something that he's actually going to do, because we know that in terms of the different garments of the soul, thought is the closest, the most intimate garment of the three. And therefore, the thoughts that I am having impact me in a very deep way. So if I'm thinking about things that are inappropriate, right, those thoughts are going to impact my whole being, right? So with that in mind, he says, Ella hirhure avera kashim avera yecholim lipol la'alos lamaycha v'libalbo metayra v'avoida. Therefore, what happens is that when that thought pops up into his mind, and he's in the middle of doing something, right? He's in the middle of learning, he's in the middle of davening, he's in the middle of doing anything. That thought is going to impact him. It's going to trouble him. It's going to bother him. And it's going to, like he says here, it's going to bilbul him. Bilbul means like just to get into a state of confusion. It'll like shake him up a little bit, right? That is having a negative impact on our Benoni here. Okay? So what the Alter Rebbe is doing with this whole passage, as I mentioned earlier, is that he's trying to show us how normal of a person, from our perspective, because this is what we could relate to, because we are not in the level of a tzaddik, but how normal he is. He's very, very different than what a tzaddik looks like, right? So he is being impacted. He's being affected by one thought, another thought. I want this, I want that, I want that. All these different things that are popping into his mind. The difference is between the Benoni and the Rasha is that he is able to recognize, this thought is coming into my mind, I'm going to do something about it. Push it away. Push this away, push that away. It's almost like, I don't know if they still have this game, but when we were growing up, they used to have a game. Like they have these moles or something like that. There was like a board, and you had like a bat in your hand with like a little cushion, and like these moles would come up, and you like bang, and then you go bang, 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 and they go faster, and they go. Do they still have that game? Whack-a-mole. Whack-a-mole. Okay, fine. Okay, so this is what it's like all of a sudden, but the idea is the Benoni is a champion in this game, because as much as it comes up, bang, he hits it down. That's the way it is. So that's what he says here. Because as the Gemara tells us, there are 3 sins that a person cannot be saved from every day. One is hirhur aveira. Number 2 is v'iyun tefillah, and then it says chulu. It doesn't bring the third one, which means like this. These 3 things are going to impact us every single day, no matter who you are. Number one is a hirhur avera, which means that an idea pops up into my mind of doing some sort of avera that I really shouldn't be involved in. Right? Number two, iyun tefillah. What's iyun tefillah? Iyun tefillah means that I really focus on davening in such a way that I am totally given over to my davening, understanding what the davening is saying, and completely there, and that no thought will come to disturb me. It's just the way it is. It's just the way we're dealing with. The third avera that he talks about here is what is known as the dust of lashon hara. That's another third sin that he mentions here. Why doesn't he bring it over here? He just brings chulu. Because here we're dealing specifically with cases of mind. We're talking about cases of thoughts that are popping up into our heads. So the two ideas that are relevant to our situation here are this hirhur avera, this thought of sinful doing, and concentrating in davening. So then he says from here, Rak shelezeh mo'il harishimo b'moichin v'yiras Hashem b'havaso hamisuteres b'chal hayemini lihizgaber v'lishloit al hara hazeh. So he says like this, however, despite the fact that we just said before that the fire is not burning in the fireplace from davening, there is a reshima. What's a reshima? A reshima is an impression. Something's there. There's something left. There's some sort of memory of it. In other words, if he spends the time entering the day the way he's supposed to enter the day, with his meditation, with his davening, with his doing his things, it's true. The flame in his heart at 2 o'clock in the afternoon is not the same. It's just not the same as it was in the morning. But there's a trace that's been left over that he has to grab onto. What was that meditation that he was thinking about in the morning? What was it about? What was I feeling? That trace is able to hold, he's able to hold on to it throughout the day. It's no longer a feeling in the heart. Remember what we talked about in other classes of Hasidus. There's a difference between a feeling in the heart that a person mamish actually feels, an emotion, and a feeling in the head. Feeling in the head means something that he recognizes that this is the right thing. He recognizes the right thing. He doesn't have the emotion. He's not emotionally driven in the same way, but he gets it. Like, this is how I should be. Right now, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he does not have that emotion anymore. But he does have a trace of something. Something's there. Something's there. He recognizes that this is where he has to be. And in that recognition, he's able to rely upon it. He's able to rely upon it to be able to stop himself. Right now, he's in a scenario. He's in a situation. Something's happening in his life. Okay, what am I going to hold on to? So the Benoni has the thought to hold on to that davening that he had in the morning, to hold on to that meditation. Go back to the thoughts about Hashem that he had in the morning, the recognition of what he was thinking about at that point in time. And even though it's not going to conjure up in him the same type of burning fire that he had before, it will be able to help him to make it through to the next step. And that's really what he needs more than anything else. Right now, I'm not looking to vanquish the Nefesh Bahamis. What I'm looking to do is to control myself enough that I'm not going to allow the Nefesh Bahamis to take control of my thought, my speech, or my action. That's what I need. So for that, I have enough power. And that's what he says here. In this, it's going to help. Here, he's talking about what? The trace that's in his brain, that's still in his head. V'yiras Hashem, in the yira, the fear of God, v'avaso, and his love for him, hamisuteres, which is hidden in the right side, b'chala yamini, in order lihizgaber v'lishloit al hara hazeh. In order to what? To win out over and to control. To control this evil that's popping up into him, that's pushing him to go do something that he shouldn't be doing. Right? That to go after whatever it is that he's being pulled towards in his desires. Right? In other words, that nefesh bahamis should never get a chance to be able to control the body. In other words, who's driving the truck right now? The nefesh bahamis is trying to get a hold of the steering wheel. And he elbows him to the side. He's not going to let him get a hold of the steering wheel. He's not going to let him. He won't let him control the body, no matter what. In order to bring this desire, whatever it happens to be, and to take it from potential into actuality. He's just not going to let it manifest. That's the idea. In order to enclose itself within the limbs of the body, and even just in the brain alone, in order to really think this evil thing, this bad thought, this negativity, this negative idea, this complaint that comes up into his mind. I'm not going to let my brain be taken over by the nefesh bahamis. I'm not going to go after this desire. I'm not going to do this. He's in control. That's the point. Constantly on the mark. He's constantly there. He's not going to allow it to be able to take over the ratzon in his brain. In order to receive beratzon. In other words, what does he mean by receive beratzon, this here or this negative thought? What he means is that, okay, the thought pops up into his mind, right? As we talked about the other day. But where do you go with it? You have to be able to cut it off right at its source, right there. Whether it's a thought about doing some sort of sin, whether it's even a thought of negativity, some sort of negative idea pops into my mind, or as we're going to learn about in chapters 26 and 27, right? All about these ideas of depression. Oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not whatever. Stop. Got to stop it right at its source. He's not going to receive it. Beratzon. I'm not going to allow it to take over my life. I'm in charge here. I'm driving the truck. I'm driving the car. Right? And that's what he says here. Because this thought popped up from his heart into his brain, from the nefesh bahamis, is going to want to push him in a direction that really he knows he shouldn't be going in. But it's coming me'alav. Why? Because at the end of the day, like we said in the last page, the essence of the nefesh bahamis is 100% here. It's 100% here. And so therefore, you can't expect that I'm going to just cruise through life without any of these negative thoughts popping into my head. It's impossible. Right? At the end of the day, the nefesh bahamis has a job to do. God sent the nefesh bahamis into my life in order for me to do my avoda and for him to show me where my avoda is. That's what's happening here. And don't think that for a second, since he is sitting there, that he is just going to go to sleep and that's going to be the end of the story. He went to sleep during the davening. But now he woke up. Once he's up, you can't keep him quiet. But what you can do is not allow him to take over the agenda. Elimiyad, immediately, immediately, as soon as it comes up there, from there, you push it away with your two hands. I remember someone said a great word about this. That what does it mean, push away with two hands? Imagine the Rebbe, go like this with his hands, right? It means push away. What does it mean, push it away with two hands? It means that very often when we get involved with a negative thought, right, we start to question it. Is this really true? Is it good? Is it bad? Where is this coming from? What do I think about this? What are your thoughts about this? In other words, really what the nefesh bahamis wants more than anything else is to get me involved. Get me involved. Once it gets me involved in terms of, let me discuss it, let me think about it, let me analyze it, where did it come from, how come I have it? It won. They won. Because once you're involved with wrestling with it, then you're stuck. You're stuck to it. So the eitzah, the advice that the Alter Rebbe is giving to all of us is that as soon as this thought pops up into my mind, immediately push it away. There's no place for it in my life. And how do I push it away? I put my mind on something else. Because if I am in control of my brain, I have an arsenal of things that I could be thinking about. I have a lot of things in Torah that I could be thinking about. I have a lot of things prepared that I could immediately move my brain in this way, move my brain in that way, move away from it. That's how I have to train myself, right? Many people are into meditation, so they train their brain a lot of times. Like their brain, they're thinking about their breath, for example. So very often you hear the meditation. You start thinking about something else. Oh, bring it back to your breath, right? So in a similar way, I also have to practice this idea. This idea of I'm thinking, all of a sudden a negative thought comes up in mind. I have to be aware of it, and I could be in charge. I have to be in charge of my brain. I can put it wherever I want to put it, and I'm not going to put it into that direction. That's my goal, and that's my job, and that's what the Benoni is an expert at. He's a champion. He's always in control. Okay, Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we will finish the chapter and we'll bring up one of the most profound thoughts in terms of how to do Avodas Hashem, service of Hashem, and in particular how to deal with other people in tomorrow's class. Okay, until tomorrow then.